All right, and we are live. Hello, everybody. As promised, this week has been really exciting. I have been bringing on panelists after panelists after panelists for the Raise Your Authority Leadership Summit. For next week, we are officially 7 days away. So we're officially going to do the 7-day countdown as of right now. I have a special guest behind the scenes. I was just telling her right before I hopped on that I am ready to stop talking about Raise Your Authority at this point. I've been talking about it since April 1st. And honestly, ever since we did the first one back in February, I've been talking about it. And it's not that I'm so sick of the event. I am just so ready for it to be here. I'm anxious. I'm excited because the last event created so many networking opportunities, so many connections, and I still see those connections flowing after the event. So that's what I'm most excited for, is for you to be in this room with the right people, because every single person that's at this event sees the value in investing and being in the right rooms. We see like the whole purpose of it, why being in the right rooms is so powerful and so crucial for business. And just seeing the first version of Raise Your Authority, we had transactions being made throughout the event last time, which is not something I was expecting. We had friendships built. And, a lot of times we say to ourselves, I want to be in the right rooms. I want to meet other women who like to see other women succeed. I want to be with other women who are farther along in their business. But where do I find them? In these dry ass Facebook groups? Like, where do I find these people? And so I've created this event to create a space for just that, for these women who have very profitable businesses. They know the importance of networking and being in the right rooms, and they actually thrive off of seeing other women succeed. So without further ado, I'm going to actually introduce you guys to one of the panelists. I'm very excited for her to be here. I've been following her on social media for a very long time. Her personality is just very, very contagious. And I just love how humble and also how badass she is in her marketing. So for those of you guys who do not know Brittany Budd, you're going to meet her today. So Brittany is known as the content queen. She helps female entrepreneurs to build and scale six-figure businesses or more in their businesses using organic social media marketing strategies. Brittany is also a mom of 3 and has made 6 figures organically every year since starting her business. So I'm going to go ahead and have her come on stage so she can share with you guys about what she does without getting all tongue-tied like I did. Brittany, welcome to the stage.
I don't know if I might get tongue-tied too. I don't know. But thank you for having me. I'm excited.
You're welcome. I always mess up with the introductions. Every single person that I have come on, I'm like, all right, I'm going to write out this paragraph. It's easy for me to read, and I have a hard time. So this is why I have a co-host for Raise Your Authority, because my co-host Angel Sames really helps keep me in check with these introductions, because they're your words, not mine. You know what I mean? And so we try to recreate them in a way where it's easier for me to read, but I always mess them up. But it is.
That's okay. You're perfect.
So say hello to the people. Introduce yourself. Tell us what you do and who you serve.
Yeah. So thank you for having me. Hello, everybody. I am Brittany Budd. I am the content queen. I am a wife. I am a mom. I do have 3 beautiful children. I also have 2 baby girls that I lost in the last 4 years. And that's a big part of my story because I work with moms. I work with women, and lots of us are going to face those things. If you ever decide to become pregnant, like the chances that you lose a baby are 50-50. So that's a big part of my story. I was a stockbroker for 7 years before starting my own business marketing content strategy company. At that time, I managed over $21 million in assets for over 150 different families. Right before the pandemic, I decided to retire, hang my hat, and jump into the online space and start my own company. And yeah, it's been just over 3 years. I started February 2020. So we're just into year 4, and we've done 6+ figures since starting, which has been amazing. I love it.
I started my business around the same time as you. We launched March 31st of 2020. And, I feel like it was almost like a cliche back then. A lot of people started their businesses, and now it's just the norm. And it's crazy to have started something so incredible in such a crazy time. But I feel like I'm not going to speak for you, but I know for me, it opened up the opportunity and opened my eyes to like what I was no longer available for. And it gave me the opportunity to take charge of my life. So yeah, I'm really glad. Not that I'm glad the pandemic happened, because it was a very sad time for all of us, and very stressful and overwhelming, and a lot of us lost people. But I feel like for some of us, we grew during that phase. So congratulations entering into year 4. This is good. I don't know about you, but I feel like this is the year. Like, I don't know, 2023 there's just something about this year that there's a whole new energy. I see the coaching space changing a lot, which I'm really excited about, but we won't get into all that. But welcome. I'm so excited to have you. Like I was saying before, I've been following you online for a while. Don't ask me how we got connected. I have no idea. We probably met in a Facebook group. I don't know. One of us must have friend requested each other. But ever since following you, I've always admired your very raw side of your business, right? And when I say raw, I mean being very open about the things that you've dealt with, the loss of a child, and then also like just your whole marketing side of things, of the way you're very unapologetic. I've always admired that about you. But then also the fun, sweet, soft side of you, right? And the silly, whatever type of side of you is very relatable. And I think that a lot of people say that's a lot of people do that, but it's actually really hard to come by. I don't see people sharing both sides of it. I see a lot of people online sharing either the really hard sides of their life, and they're being really, really open with it, and you kind of know them for those things, but then they don't share all the more positive and silly sides of themselves, or people that are really showing the more silly, positive sides of themselves behind the scenes, but they keep everything else kind of hidden. And I feel like it can be difficult to balance that anyways, which is why I think I don't see a lot of people doing it, because it definitely does make social media a little bit harder to manage. Let me ask you this. This is kind of like off the rails topic, but like I feel like a lot of people can relate to this. What do you feel like has helped you to be so vulnerable and share more of those behind the scenes of your life? Like has having a coach been really helpful for you? Having a community, like having your spouse there, like what do you feel like has been like probably the most helpful piece of being able to really be so vulnerable online and still like not burn your business to the ground while doing it?
Yeah, I think that it's really hard to burn your business to the ground. I think that we think our businesses are far more fragile than they are, but it takes a lot of work to actually ruin your business. But for me, every time I face something that's difficult, or, a failed launch, or losing a baby, or, having a client kind of shit on you, I always try to think like, okay, if this is happening to me, it's going to happen to someone else. If it hasn't already happened to them, it's going to happen to them. And so for me, when I'm sharing all of the sides, I'm really just kind of sharing what's going on in the moment for me. And that's been, I think, hugely beneficial to me to cultivate and create the community that I have around me, which is amazing. But also, positioning yourself as an authority figure, which is what this is all about, like being an authority. I want the people that come to me, to not feel judged either way. And I think that when we can kind of, if we're only sharing the hard stuff, and it seems like, well, when does this person ever have fun? Then that's kind of what you're known for, like you were saying before. And if you only share the easy stuff, then it's like, well, does this person never experience hardships? And then, it becomes a little bit more difficult to attract customers and clients to you, because they want to feel seen and validated in the good, the bad, the ugly, right? And so for me, I've just always kind of shared that stuff and just thought, you know what, if they don't like it, they can leave. And if they learn something from it, great.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me that stood out is you sharing in the moment, because obviously we all follow a lot of people online, and I've personally been really good about unfollowing people who trigger me, right?
Yeah.
But you'll see a lot of people who will share their stories, but after the fact, like they'll say, "Oh, a year ago you never knew this, but I was going through this, this, and this." But if you
Yeah.
scroll through their content, it's all happy and success, and that's where I think a lot of us get thrown off, because it's like, well, how much do we actually show on social media? You know what I mean? Before we're sharing too much, right? How much do we actually let people in? And one of the things I tell my clients is, like, you get to choose. Not, you don't have to be as vulnerable as we are on social media, right? There
Yeah.
are certain parts of your life that you should keep, like, to yourself. You know what I mean? Obviously,
Yeah.
and even the people that share, like, the most vulnerable parts, even like yourself, I'm sure, like, there are parts of you that you don't completely share on social media.
Oh, yeah.
But I think humanizing yourself, especially for like a personal brand, like, you are literally, like, people are investing to work with you, right? As much as we talk about our company and our offers, like, at the end of the day, people want to work with you. So they want to
Yeah.
be able to connect with you. So showing them our human sides of business is not only something that you want to do, it's necessary at some point. And I'm really excited for you to share your story of next week at our event, because how do you navigate through that, right? How do you go through these hurdles of life, the loss, the trauma, and the success, right? How do you position yourself as an authority? How do you position yourself as an expert, right? While going through all of those things. And I think that it's going to be powerful when you share about that next week. But let's go ahead and jump into, first of all, at what point in your business, because we're talking about authority, right? And for those of you guys who are brand new to this event, you haven't heard of it before, the whole point of this event is for our panelists to share, like, how are they able to position themselves as the go-to people in their industry, right? When I think of Brittany, I think of content, right? Literally immediately. Now, as Brittany skilled in other things? Absolutely, I know you are. There's so many different things that you can help people with their business, but what's the go-to thing when I think of Brittany? I think of content, right? And so this is something that obviously you have been very, very you've crafted for yourself, right? There's been intention behind that. And so all of the panelists are going to be sharing, how do we get people to tag you on social media to be known as this one thing, and how does that benefit your business, right? And so they're going to be sharing their stories about, their pivots, their journeys, the not so great things about business, the so great things about business, so you can understand how can you do that for yourself in your own industry, because all of the women here are in different industries. There's some overlap, but for the most part, everyone is an expert in different things, and we want to share those stories with you. So my question for you, Brittany, is, at what point in your business did you feel like you were able to position yourself as, like, the go-to person, as the authority, as the expert, the content queen, as you say?
Yeah. Yeah. I love this question because it was not right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first 2.5 years, I was mindset and business coach. It's very general for women, moms, like whatever's going on in your business. Doesn't matter what phase you're in, new, been around for a while. I can help you with your business model and your content and get more sales and your mindset and your money mindset and all of these things. And I still do all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it really wasn't until like the end of last year that I just went from this to this, like general mindset business coaching to content. And it was it wasn't something that I kind of came to on my own. I'm not going to take credit for it, because I think that when we start thinking about our niches and what we do, and we go, oh well, like she calls herself the content queen, I got to call myself something, or Chrissy calls herself the authority coach, I got to call myself something. It just kind of creates this unnecessary pressure to like label yourself with something. So like, don't do that. You can still have a very successful business, just helping people in whatever capacity that looks like. It wasn't until, like I said, it was the end of last year. I was at an event with like colleagues, ladies, also kind of in my niche and other niches and friends, and I was telling them about how I had done this Reels challenge and 30% of the ladies that came went viral. 75% of the ladies that did Reels every day for 30 days went viral. And we're talking like hundreds of thousands of views on accounts that have a few hundred followers. And they were just like, why aren't you talking about this way more? Like, I think I saw you post about it one time.
Yep.
And it was kind of them that were like, why don't you embrace that you do content so well? Like everyone in this room is sitting here asking you to audit their social media and asking you for ideas on content. And it just comes to you so naturally. Like, how come you're not seeing that? And it was just kind of one of those things where you're too close to it. Like I couldn't see the forest through the
Mhm.
trees. And I was lucky to have a community that was like, but you're the content queen. Haven't you realized that yet?
Mhm.
And I hadn't. And it's the things that are common sense to you, they always say the things that are common sense to you are the things that you should be getting paid for. But because it's common sense to you, you tend to overlook that other people don't
Yep.
have that second nature for them. And so, yeah, like I did it. I did it general and open for a long time. And then I just made that one tweak to like really embrace my genius.
I experienced something very similar, which is why I'm smiling so much. Because
Yeah.
first of all, the whole labeling yourself thing, I agree with you. I did not just wake up one day and say I am going to call myself the authority coach. My clients started calling me that, right?
Yeah.
And so my clients started calling me that, and I was like, you know what, we're going to use this, and it just kind of became part of my marketing, right? And so authority isn't the only thing I do, and honestly, like authority isn't even the main thing that I do. It's just the events and the name of all of my
Yeah.
programs. And so people kind of labeled me as that, right? And then also the whole like the where you're like so like your superpower sometimes can be like seems so mediocre almost to
Yeah.
you because you're like, well, content that feels basic, right? Like
Yeah.
that's how I felt about launching was like when before I started really dialing into launching, I was already helping my clients launch their offers, right? But I wasn't really calling it that. It was more so
Right.
just like, well, we're just going to create a detailed timeline and series and blueprint of how we're going to market this, right? And all the content. And like, I didn't really like look at it like a framework, right? And
Right.
so until I started working with one of my previous coaches would say to me all the time, no one creates FOMO the way you do when you launch something, right? And so I was like, well, thanks. You take it as a compliment, but I wasn't listening, right? And then you
Right.
get compliment and someone else says something, and someone else says something, and you got to really pay attention to when people compliment you and people point those things out because that is the thing that people start to get to know you for, right?
Yeah.
And this is kind of like, honestly, guys, this is kind of like one of the first steps to position yourself as an authority is because people will literally create this known for thing for you. Like
Yes.
you will almost create this invisible persona of you because you're so talented at this one thing. And
Yep.
it can take time to own it because for me it was like, well, who's going to pay me just to launch?
Right.
Like launching isn't even that big of a deal, right? And so like because it was such a no-brainer for me, like then I started working with another coach who was like, so you do sales and marketing? And I'm like, well, yeah. And she's like, okay, but what specifically, right? And then I started explaining all the things that I do, and she's like, so you help with launches? And I'm like, well, let me tell you, there was a lot of pushback for that
Yeah.
conversation going back to was so much pushback. And then once I let go of the resistance, I was like, I am a launch consultant, right? And then now, and my sales over the last few months, since I actually came to this realization in like the end of December,
Yep.
my sales have skyrocketed over the last couple months because I've been dialing into my expertise. Do I help people with other things? Then I help them, yes. But
Yes.
what's the thing I'm known for? Launching, right?
Yep.
And so it can. I love that you brought that up because I've heard a lot of people say this where it was that one thing that they felt like was so simple and second nature to them. And it's like, well, who wants this? And it's not even like who wants this, but like, can't you just go Google this? Or can't you just like, you know what I mean? Because think about it. Like
Yeah.
when it comes to content, when it comes to launches, there's so much stuff you can look up, right? And so that can create like this thought in your mind, well, can't they just like, isn't this so simple? And it's not, because when you get to the nitty gritty of it, creating content is not that simple.
No.
It's not. So like, you know what I mean? So like it's just one of those things. And I see a lot of tech people do this too. I know a lot of people in the tech industry where they're like, oh well, that's easy. And then they start breaking down how they do all the things, and you're like, you lost me at step 2, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. So anyways, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to you diving into that more next week. And then I have one more question for you. So
Okay.
I know that one of your, I saw you post on social media that you've been invited to speak on a couple different panels this year. Why did you say yes to me when I asked you to be one of the panelists?
Because I love you.
Well, thank you so much. But
You're welcome.
what is it about this topic that you feel like is
Yeah.
exciting or worth speaking on?
Well, when you asked me, I was a little bit surprised, honestly. And so honored, like not surprised in a bad way, like in like, oh my goodness, I can't believe she asked me kind of way, because I think that what you are cultivating here with these Raise Your Authority events and what you do is so important, particularly in today's society where we are seeing such a shift in the market and the coaching industry and everything like that. The way people are buying are different, and the veil is being pulled back on a lot of names in the industry. And you're giving a platform for people that are real authority figures who really have something to say, and handing them the mic and giving them those opportunities to teach other people and create that beautiful community that is so needed right now. So when you asked me if I wanted to be a part of it, that was a no-brainer. Of course I wanted to be a part of it.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because one of the things I want to make very clear, guys, is that the women at this event have built 6-figure and multiple 6-figure businesses. And the reason I talk about that is because I'm not talking about social media influencers, as far as like, I'm not talking about how many followers they have on social media, right? Now, do some of our panelists have pretty good following? Yes. Like at the end of the day, you've got to have a following, some type of following, some type of audience to sell to, right? Like I'm not going to pretend like you have to have 0 people on social media. But my point is I am not saying that you have to be an authority by being known as like the guru online, right? And not just the guru, but like the person who has tens and thousands of followers. You don't have to have that to be an authority figure. One of the things that one of my mentors talks about is being known as the best kept secret. And I feel like that's what a lot of my panelists is they are go-to people in their industries, but they may not be the most searchable, or they may not be the most known on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, right? They're the best kept secret. And that's why I wanted to bring these people to you, because it's like, rather than focusing on how many followers you can have, let's focusing on dialing down in your expertise so you can attract those followers, like of loyal like clients that are tagging you and mentioning you everywhere they go. And when we think of that one thing, whether it's tech, taxes, content, launching, copywriting, when we think of that thing, your face pops up in their head. And that's what we want to create. And how do you do that? And that's what we're going to be talking about at the Raise Your Authority event. So anyways, thank you so much, Brittany. I'm really excited to have you. This is going to be a lot of fun, guys, next week. If you are a coach, consultant, licensed expert, or service provider, and you're looking to be in the right room with women that are really excited to network with you, join us at raiseyourauthority.com. You can use Brittany's code. It's Brittany Budd 100 to save $100 off your ticket. And we hope to see you guys there May 3rd.
Thanks.